All right, guys, welcome back to the channel because we are back. All right, we took a week off. My brother's, he was sick, and I had to have some dental work. Anyway, let's jump right into it. This episode, we're gonna talk about the Panthers. Mostly, we're gonna get into the losing streak, all that good stuff. But I think we're gonna start off, Daryl, with Mackie, right? Mackie coming up on the lineup, into the lineup after Lockwood got his concussion. Oh yeah, we can start talking about that, man. Poor Lockwood, man.
I mean, it was karma. Like, Lombard knocked somebody out, and
Really bad karma.
he lasted at least a few seconds.
You could tell, you could see a comment on, like, yeah, he's not.
Yeah, he's a small guy, man, and he was trying. He was trying to hit the guy, but you can't leave yourself open like that. You got to be smarter. You got to grab and tussle there if you're fighting a bigger dude. I mean, Reinhardt got punched in the eye, so if you're not a fighter, man, just fake it. Don't try to throw haymakers.
Yeah, Reinhardt at least attempted like a Superman punch at some point. Kind of just jump in there with the
you gotta don't be a hero, man. Just grab the guy, go down.
Don't drop the gloves.
I mean, honestly, sometimes you have to, but like even if you do, like especially if you're fighting, because that's the thing with Reinhardt, he was fighting a real fighter, like a tough guy, and the same with Lockwood. And when you're fighting those kinds of guys, you just have to. You have to just basically tussle if you can, and no one's gonna hate you for it. At least you dropped the gloves. That was like the symbol of willing to do it. But
yeah,
you could get seriously hurt as Lockwood did, and so I mean, it's kind of on the other guys, not to like take advantage. But Lockwood was throwing a couple punches, so at that point he was asking for it. Anyway, just poor kid, but he'll be back. He'll be fine.
Yeah, some guys some of those guys, they really like to fight, so they don't really care who the opponent is. But you should always show mercy. If the other guy doesn't really want to engage, it's the right thing to do, because it's still a sportsmanship type of thing, regardless of it being fighting. But anyway, yeah, due to Lockwood being out, after getting knocked out, he also has been suspended. I don't think he's been back to practice, even though he's eligible to. And I'm sure that's gonna take a while. Cousins is still out, even though he is practicing. I'm not sure if it's 100% clear yet, but he can practice. So we'll start with Mackie. Mackie Samoskevich was called up from the Charlotte Checkers, and what have you've been following Mackie for a while? You watched the AHL games for Charlotte, and yeah, we've I think him and Sordiff are the two main prospects that we expect are gonna make the team next year if everything goes well. But what do you make of this? What do you make of Mackie coming up, and what does it mean? Do you think Maurice is gonna give it a shot for a few games, or are we gonna just get a winger at the deadline?
I don't know, man. I think I think there was pressure on Maurice probably to bring him up, maybe from Cito or some of the front office, because of Mackie. And I think the only reason it wasn't Sordiff instead of Mackie, is that Sordiff was suspended for a couple of games around the time that he got called up. So maybe that has something to do with it, because I know the last time they called somebody up was Sordiff, but he never got to play. Because Sordiff is playing first-line center, and he's playing PK and power play. And in the pecking order, he kind of is ahead of Mackie development-wise. But anyway, like I think Mackie got called up in between the games in the weekend for the AHL. So I think it was just a combination of they needed another body, because Barkov was also out for a while, and they needed somebody with skill for the top six. So and Mackie has been killing it. They have been talking about it on the broadcast. The last month he's just above a point per game, but beyond that, he and sort of that line they play on the first line. They've been dominant in terms of what they provide, and they've played with different guys on the wing, and they haven't quite found the right guy yet. But they're not just the scoring, but just the way that they're playing, man. They're playing really hard, and they're hitting posts and creating chances, and the power play is humming when they're in it. So they deserve a shot. Both of them, I think, do. And so given that it's going to the break only a few games, they have the perfect excuse to keep Cousins out. Let him come back from that concussion, and then maybe hold them off until after the break. And and you'll see where Mackie's at if he gets 4 games with a team. First game he looked a little bit slow. He was tired. You could tell. He had just played with the Checkers. He been grinding. The schedule with the Checkers was really intense the last 2 weeks, so he was probably tired. But he found the legs toward the end of the game and then got a few shots off. And then last game he also created some chances, some open space. He got a really nice shot off that he created his own space, similar to Verhage. So I just kind of want to see what he provides. I know he's in that weird line now with Barkov and I guess Rodriguez, but Maurice mentioned how he might switch out Reinhardt and Mackie, and that might be tomorrow or maybe even in the middle of tonight's game. And then we might see Mackie with Lundy and Lusty. And Lundy's looking better, man. Lundy, I think, just playing with Reinhardt has woke him up, and Lusty's looking okay. So I kind of want to see what that third line will look like with Mackie and them. I don't know. I still don't buy that Mackie would play in the playoffs this year. I just don't think he's ready. He's not that physical. If you had to have a guy there from in-house who's not Cousins, which I hope is not Cousins, then I would try Sordev. I think Sordev is a lot more physical and able to handle a playoff run and provide some skill in scoring. But for now, I think we get to see Mackie. We get to see his skill. I don't think he'll stay up after the break, unfortunately. But it's just nice, man. He is going to be part of our team next year. I mean, that has to happen unless he has a setback. So,
yeah, and I think, excuse me, I think if you look at the cap, you're gonna have to have Mackie sort of. I think it's just a better option than getting rentals every year. I saw that. I think Colin White was playing with. God, I just found this so funny. Where's Colin White? Senators. He's like playing with like Brady Kachuk or something. So I think that like having Mackie and sort of as an option is just better than getting another Stenlin or Lorentz or Cousins, those type of guys. So I don't think we'll see him back next year. And I wouldn't be surprised if Maurice changes the lineup tonight, even though they skated already, same as last game. So I expect those to be the lines, but he might switch it out if they're losing or anything like that's going on. Yeah, I find that interesting. And it's funny, like once you watch Mackie out on the ice, he looks good, but you can still see he's just very small. He still doesn't position himself well on the boards. He falls a lot. Whenever he has the puck on the boards and he kind of just gets pushed a little bit, he kind of gets a little bit sloppy. And I think that's just something that, just comes with time and experience. I've also been like noticed as a side note, like, yeah, there's a lot of young guys in the league that kind of start hitting the stride after their mid-20s, sometimes even in their late 20s, So he's so young and everything. I think I think we'll be fine. And yeah, I agree. The Sordev should be the first one to get called up. And if we do need someone for the playoffs, he's a good option. I know they're gonna keep Lockwood as that six, that extra forward in case of an injury, but I think Sordev could do the job as well.
Yeah, Sordev is a lot stronger on the board just naturally, but also because he's older and has a year of pro experience. And Mackie is something you see with a lot of the younger players around the league, where they have a lot of skill, but physically they're easy to. Even Jack Hughes, you've seen him get injured this year, getting plastered. Even Bedard went out because he got hit in the face and the jaw. Like Mackie's that kind of guy where he's still learning. He's doing much better in the AHL where guys are not as fast and as skilled, but so he was starting to hold his own down there a lot more. But yeah, I do think he needs to do a little bit of board work over the summer and just anticipate better. He's good at puck retrieval. Like he's good at stealing pucks on the wall. He can anticipate where the puck's going to go. So he can be pretty good on the boards, but more from a skill perspective. He's not Verhage. He's not as big as those guys. So, you just kind of have to live with that. He's not going to be, it's like, you're not afraid of, the Brinket on the boards, but he can shoot. So with Mackie, he needs to be on a line where maybe Lundy and Lusty are doing the board work. He's kind of then going more to the front of the net, looking for open spaces. So and yeah, he's gonna fall. But you know who else falls all the time on the boards? Nick Cousins. He's always falling too, and you know he's a vet, but he's also a little guy. So anyway, you got to live with certain things. I just don't think he's ready for the playoffs. I think he will get absolutely demolished the way that Nice got demolished by Bennett. So I'm okay with giving him another year and then a full NHL year with the Panthers leading up to a playoff run. I think that he'll be ready. But he's improved, man. He's stronger than he was at the beginning of the season for sure. So yeah, maybe Sordev is the guy that we try later in the season.
Yeah, no, I wanted to look at the standings because I think, like, especially in the East, it's starting to everything's starting to kind of fall into place. There's really the only spots, I think, or the only teams that are going to be still competing towards the end of the season maybe is going to be, you know, Tampa with Toronto, see who gets that second, third place, where the Panthers are in second place right now in the Atlantic. I think like Tampa and Toronto that's something to watch. I think that's going to be a tight race. Tampa's playing much better.
Yeah, the Red Wings started to win again, so you know they're kind of
they went on a little streak. Yeah.
So they might not fade as quickly as people thought. And then you know you have the the Metropolitan guys, the Devils, hovering around there. I think the Caps are going to fall. Penguins just look like they just don't have it. So
yeah, the Penguins, yeah. They're the only team. They should actually be right there.
Yeah, the Islanders should be there too, but they're also like a bit of a mess.
Yeah, the Islanders goal differential is pretty bad, -22. Capitals -30. Yeah. I don't know how they have 50 points. Well, I do. Is their goaltending? I was looking at that their goaltender's like number 2.
And the Islanders is just going to overtime like the Leafs a lot. Yeah.
The Islanders have a ton of overtime games, and the Devils have had injuries, and it wasn't clicking.
They overachieved last year too. I think it messed up the curve. Yeah.
They need goaltending.
Yeah. We're in good shape, I think, with, you know, after going through that funk at home, which is always annoying, but we had the 9-game winning streak, so you know, it's gonna be up and down. We figured out the last 2 games. You know, we'll see how we do this today and tomorrow. I'm hoping at least we get one of the 2, if not both. And I think we'll be in decent shape the rest of the season. I think the extensions are going to be the priority for Cito probably, and then we'll see if any moves come out of that. But I know for sure 100% that they know there's a third line spot that needs to get figured out regardless. There's no way we can succeed in the playoffs if our third line can't score, you know. So I'm curious to see whether the contracts land and whether all 3 guys sign or not. So, but Cito is a tough negotiator. So, you know, if you're not hearing about it, you know, he's not happy yet with what the guys want. Or maybe they're just giving him more time to you know, to keep the numbers down.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where it's coming from, but yeah, you know,
maybe he's listening to trade options. You know, who knows, man? He might be deciding, you know, is it better to keep somebody and better to trade him for what I'm being offered or what would be available out there. I mean, a smart GM would only sign an extension early if the numbers match what you want or close to it, or the guy is like, I'm willing to pay whatever. I don't want to lose this guy. Kind of like what happened with Nylander. We're kind of not there with any of these 3 guys, to be honest with you.
No.
And if I am honest, the most valuable guy for the money is Forsling. And so, you know, and he's a guy you can afford to wait on and just try to see if you can lock him up.
He's not a scorer or a point getter, so you save a couple million there, like 7 million tops for me. Yeah, it's long term. If you
Monter's struggling, like he's not scoring a lot.
I think Monter will be the one that you trade.
Yeah, and you know, Reinhardt we just don't know what Reinhardt is asking for. I mean, I know the report said it wouldn't be Kachuk money, but they could still be far apart if Reinhardt wants 9.25 and Cito wants 8. You know, like it might end up being 8.5, but like I don't know.
Yeah, Reinhardt's gonna try to maximize that money, and I think maybe at most he would get like 10 million out in the market, and I can only imagine one or two teams doing that. Like maybe Pittsburgh does that if they find a way. Maybe the Oilers, like one of these teams that's trying to win now. But is it really? I don't know. 70 million. You can go a little bit lower with the Panthers with that extra year.
You just don't want to overpay per year with him, and you got to think about roster construction.
Yeah,
so
and the costs and all that.
Even if the difference is a mil and a half, and you just don't want to commit, then you maximize return, man. You know, he's going to have value, and you know, if there are 2 to 3 teams that want to play that want to pay the 10 mil, then trade him to you know, try to work out a trade.
Yeah.
And I think that you know, Vancouver also is probably looking for a top 6 guy. I know the Kraken is they're probably gonna make some moves. The Calgary is gonna make some moves. There are options out there that might want to lock him up. So, you know, maybe if Calgary's gonna lose Lindholm, they want to get someone like Reinhardt in. So, you know, can you get Hanifin back? Can you get, you know, some top picks back? Yeah, it'll be really interesting. It's going to get tight now after the All-Star break, though, because it's like, you know, what is it, another month, if that, for the deadline. So it's going to really get intensified. So I'm assuming over the break, the contracts are going to get either figured out. If we don't hear anything by the end of the break on any extensions for the Panthers, it's going to get tight. It's going to get interesting.
Yeah, right. I think that's the trick. I think typically this type of contracts get worked out already. So just the fact that nothing has dropped yet, and they could have worked out something out already with Forsling or whoever, they just maybe don't want to announce it yet.
That's the other thing that I was thinking, is that, is it possible that they're like have all agreed already, but they're tinkering with the details? You know, there's always a little hassle on like 1 or 2 years, or a no trade clause, or you know, bonus money. Like, you know, maybe the tinkering. And is it possible that Cito would love to be able to announce all 3 at the same time? Because that's a kind of a boss move, you know, for the fans, of like, our core's looked up and here it's what the contracts are. That's another reason I could see why maybe even if 1 or 2 of the guys have already agreed, we haven't heard. Maybe he's holding off on that. But who knows, man? I don't know. At least we haven't heard any reports that talks are broken down or that there's no interest. But it is going to be interesting to see what happens after the All-Star break. I'm definitely going to keep an eye out for news and you know, and what happens with Reinhardt and the defensemen, and you know, and then beyond that, Cito's got to get going. You know, if we are signing all 3, we still should try to make a trade and try to bring a third liner in. And, you know, do we move Cousins or Mahura, even Kulikov, or one of the extra defensemen to try to bring something else back? I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know what their plan is.
Yeah, I know. I don't know if there are key guys on the bottom 6 that they want to get done. You have Lundell as well. You have to give him a bit of a bridge deal there.
Lundell's an RFA. Lundell is probably not going to get signed till the summer. They're probably going to give him the year and then see. I mean, worst case scenario, you take him to arbitration, I think. So,
yeah, and it'll be.
I just don't see them doing Lundell. And Lundell given the poor start of the season, probably wants the full season and then negotiate. So, yeah.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. And then I think Stenlund is a guy that you should try to resign. Lumber, give him a couple more years or another year. Gadjevich is someone you can extend. If you feel like, I mean, you can find those guys in a lot of out there. They're kind of all just floating out there, those tough 4th liners. But I think like Gadjevich is a really good 4th liner. Gives you the physicality, but he's not some bum, you know. He had a nice goal the other day. And Lumberg, you know, Lumber's great. He has flaws, you know. You don't want him to be out there against the top line, and then Stenlund, I think, is a no-brainer, right, with the PK and just young guy that plays like a veteran, not a lot of mistakes. Good piece to have. And we already have Lusty. Rodriguez is probably going to be in the third line next year. Those two guys are locked in for 3 more years or whatever. Yeah, I think you sign all three if you can afford to. If you can come up with a game plan for the next 3 years to kind of bring up the kids and fill in the holes that you're gonna have. Plus, I think, do you think they're gonna move on from Bob already, or you think they're gonna kind of wait it out?
Yeah. You mean right now?
Well, after July, he has to submit his little trade list.
I think that Cito already tried last year, I think, and I don't think there was anything there. And I think part of it was that I think at the time Bob might have still had a no trade clause. I think now the last 2 years there's a modified, so I think he will have team options to trade him to. I also think it's just much easier to move a $10 million contract, even with retention, when there's one, only 2 years left, and two, the cap is going up. And so finally with the cap going up and only 2 years, and Bob having had the playoff run he had last year, and playing at a good level this year so far, hopefully he stays up like this, you can probably find a suitor. I don't know that anybody will give him the 10 mil, so I do think we'll have to retain. But, you can retain for 2 years, cheaper probably than a buyout, because a buyout, it extends to several years. And then, so you probably retain for 2 years, might have to attach an asset, but you can free up maybe 7 mil. And so I could see somebody giving Bob 7 mil for 2 years with the cap going up. And, he's in really good shape, so I think he can still give you 2 really good years. It may be a bad team, or a contender who really can find a goalie, and is willing to allocate the money. But I think you have to try to move him, just because of the cap suck, even if he's giving you solid play, at his age, it's still such a big part of the cap, man, that it really ties your hands. Well, you can't keep Eplag at that point, right? You have to move on and not even replace him for the same money. You have to lose Verhaeghe. You have to really think that Mackie and Sordev can take a step. Like you need that money. You need that money. So my suspicion is Cito's going to try to do everything he can to move Bob this summer for the last 2 years, and then try to bring up Knight and then sign another goalie and have a goalie tandem. 2 guys with a third cheap backup, like Stolarz.
Yeah. Well, they have Guzda, right?
Yeah, but Guzda is not even playing in the AHL right now. They're prioritizing Knight there, and they don't want to have Guzda on the bench. So Guzda is playing the ECHL, I think, which is still fine, but it's not a great league. So,
not great.
So they're prioritizing that, and Guzda's not ready to. He's too young, like he's too green. I'd rather just have Knight with a vet and then a third string, like $1 million goalie, even if it's like an older guy, that you can trust. So anyway, we'll see what happens, man. But yeah, Bob is probably a goner.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense to move on from him and prioritize that money. Use that money for other guys. You have to look to see what you can get. Whatever you can get. With the Panthers, his numbers have been really good, so scorers always get a little extra and all that stuff. So yeah. All right, well, Panthers play the Penguins tonight, play the Islanders tomorrow night, Saturday night. 2 teams that they can definitely beat, so we'll see how it goes. As long as we have a full roster, I think we'll be fine. Anything else Panthers related you want to talk about?
No, man. Let's see if we finish out strong, and it'll be interesting after the break, because then all the teams are going to be tense with the playoff run, and then the trades are going to start to happen pretty fast with the deadline. So February into March will be really exciting. So yeah, looking forward to that. Hopefully we stay on top, at least hold that second spot.
Definitely. All right, guys, we'll wrap it up there. We'll catch you guys next time. Thank you for watching.